My hands are trembling so violently that I can barely hit the correct keys on my phone, but I do not have a choice. I have to get this written down. I have to send this out into the digital world before the grid goes down or before they try to silence this message. My name is Shinji Hayashi. I live in San Francisco, and for the last 15 years, I have worked as a structural engineer. I am a man who understands loads, tension, compression, and concrete facts. Up until last Thursday, I was a man of science and logic. I respected my parents' Buddhist traditions back in Japan out of politeness, but in my heart, I was an atheist. To me, religion was a fairy tale, a psychological support system for people who were afraid of the dark. I never prayed. I never looked at the stars and wondered who made them. I believed only in what I could measure with a caliper or calculate on a spreadsheet. But right now, as I sit here in my hospital bed staring at the breaking news on the television, everything I thought was solid has turned to dust. The world I understood has collapsed, and a new, terrifying, and beautiful reality has taken its place. Please, you must listen to me. I saw the earthquake last week during my near-death experience. No one believed me. The doctors, the nurses, my own parents, they all thought I was traumatized. But now I can't reach my sister. The news is flashing red banners across the bottom of the screen. A magnitude 7.6 earthquake has just struck off the northeastern coast of Japan. They are saying it hit at 11:15 p.m. local time on Monday. They are issuing tsunami warnings for Iwate, Aomori, and Hokkaido, waves up to 3 meters high. My sister Akiko lives in Aomori right near the coast. I've been calling her for an hour. The line just clicks and goes dead. But the most terrifying part isn't that the earthquake happened. Earthquakes happen in Japan. We grow up with them. The terrifying part is that I knew the exact date, the exact time, and the exact magnitude 4 days ago when I was lying dead on the side of a highway in California. I need to explain how this happened. I need to take you through the impossible journey I took, because the earthquake in Japan is not the end. It is only the opening bell. It is the first domino in a series of 5 events that will change the world forever in January 2026. It happened last Thursday night. It was raining hard on the 101 highway, a typical aggressive storm for this time of year in the Bay Area. I was driving home late from a site inspection in San Jose, tired and frustrated. My mind was filled with calculations for a high-rise retrofit, stress about deadlines, and the mundane worries of a life lived without any spiritual anchor. I was driving too fast for the conditions. I remember the glare of headlights on the wet asphalt, the rhythmic sound of the windshield wipers fighting the downpour, and then, in a split second, the laws of physics took over. My car hydroplaned. The steering wheel became useless in my hands. I lost control. The world spun violently. There was a deafening crunch of metal as I hit the concrete median barrier, and then the window shattered. And then, silence. It was an absolute heavy silence. I wasn't in the car anymore. I wasn't in California. I wasn't in pain. I was standing in a void, a place of complete nothingness. It wasn't just dark. It was the absence of existence. It felt like being in a room where the walls had been removed, the floor had been removed, and even the air had been sucked away. I felt a terror unlike anything on earth, the terror of being utterly alone in a universe that didn't care if I existed. I tried to scream, but I had no voice. I tried to move, but I had no body to command. I was just a consciousness floating in an endless cold night. I thought this was the end. I thought this was what death was, just an eternal erasure. Then the light came. It didn't come from a sun or a lamp. It stepped out of the darkness as if it walked through a door that wasn't there. At first, it was a small point, like a distant star, but it grew rapidly until it filled my entire vision. It was blindingly white, yet it didn't hurt my eyes. It felt like liquid love, liquid life. And out of that light, a man stood before me. He was not the soft, pale figure I had seen in Renaissance paintings. He was not the weak victim I had imagined Christians worshipped. He was radiant, powerful, with skin that looked like burnished bronze and eyes that looked like flames of fire, yet they were filled with an ocean of tears. I knew instantly, with a knowledge that bypassed my brain and went straight to my core, that this was Jesus. I wanted to run. I wanted to hide. I wanted to apologize for every arrogant joke I had ever made about him, for every time I had dismissed his name as a myth for the uneducated. But I couldn't move. I fell to what felt like my knees, not because I made a choice to bow, but because his presence was so heavy, so real, that standing was impossible. It was like standing next to a massive generator that was humming with power, except this power was alive. Shinji, he spoke. His voice didn't just come to my ears. It vibrated through my chest, through my spirit. It sounded like the rushing of a great waterfall, deep and resonant. You have built your life on things that can be measured, on steel and stone. But I tell you, the earth itself is fragile, and the time of shaking has begun. I looked up at him, trembling violently. I managed to whisper, "I didn't believe. I thought you were just a story." He looked at me with a sorrow that broke my heart. It wasn't anger. It was a deep, agonizing sadness. "Belief does not change truth," he said gently. "I am the Alpha and the Omega, and I have brought you here because the world is about to enter the birth pains and my people are asleep. You must see so that you can warn them." The void around us vanished. Suddenly, we were suspended high above the earth. It was terrifyingly beautiful, a blue marble hanging in the blackness of space. I could see the storms swirling, the lights of the cities, but then Jesus pointed a finger toward the east, toward my homeland, Japan. "Watch," he commanded. I saw the earth as if I were looking through a high-powered lens that could see through rock and water. I could see the ocean floor off the coast of Japan. I saw the tectonic plates, those massive slabs of rock that hold up our continents. I saw the pressure building between them, a dark, kinetic energy accumulating in the cracks. It looked like a coiled spring ready to snap. And then I saw it happen. I watched the rock fracture. I saw a massive shockwave ripple toward the northeast coast. I saw the water recede from the beaches, sucking back into the ocean as if the sea were taking a deep breath, and then surge back in a terrifying wall. I saw the towns, the roads, the power lines shaking. I saw the date burning in the air like fire, Monday, December 8th. "This is the sign of the beginning," Jesus said. "When the earth shakes in the east, know that the clock has started for the west." I screamed for my sister in the vision. "Akiko, she's there! Please stop it! She lives right by the water." Jesus turned to me, his expression stern yet pleading. "I cannot stop what humanity has sown, but I can save those who listen. You will return, Shinji. You will survive this crash. And when you see the ground shake in Japan, you must warn the world about what comes next. January 2026 will not be like other months. It is the month of the unveiling." The vision shifted. We were no longer looking at Japan. We were floating over a massive cityscape. It looked like a mix of New York, London, and Tokyo. But it was strange. It was silent. "The first event," he said, "has already been set in motion." He pointed to a calendar that appeared in the air. January 5th, 2026. I saw people in the streets. They were holding their phones, shaking them, tapping the screens frantically. I saw businessmen in high-rise offices staring at blank computer monitors. I saw banking apps failing, giving error messages. I saw communication satellites drifting offline, their signals fading into static. It wasn't a permanent destruction. Buildings didn't fall, fires didn't start. But it was a pause. A terrifying silence where money could not move and messages could not be sent. Man has made a god of his connection, but Jesus said, his voice echoing off the silent skyscrapers. They trust in the wires and the signals more than they trust in me. On this day, the digital voices will fall silent. I will sever the connection, so they must look up. It will be a time of great confusion. People will not know if it is war or a solar flare or a cyber attack, but tell them it is my hand. I am quieting the noise so they can hear the silence. I watched as the panic set in. It wasn't the panic of violence, but the panic of isolation. People didn't know what to do with themselves without the constant feed of information. They looked lost. I saw families sitting in their living rooms, unable to stream movies, unable to check social media, finally looking at each other for the first time in years. They have forgotten how to be still, Jesus observed. This silence is a mercy. It is a chance for them to remember who they are without their screens. Then he showed me the supply chains. Because the computers were down, the trucks stopped. I saw shelves in grocery stores going empty, not because there was no food, but because the system to order the food was broken. Tell them to have water, he said. Tell them to have food for their households, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. When the system pauses, My children must be the ones who are ready to share with their neighbors. The scene shifted again, dissolving like mist. Now we were hovering over the Atlantic Ocean. The water looked dark and cold. The date, January 14th, 2026, appeared in the sky. The seas are restless, he said. Look deeper. I looked down at the water. It was bubbling. It wasn't boiling from heat like a pot on a stove. It was bubbling from a release of gas, something rising from the very depths of the Earth's crust. The water began to change color. It turned a murky, strange hue, almost like rust mixed with milk. The boiling sea, he called it. It will happen here in the Atlantic. A geological event deep underwater will release minerals and gases that have been trapped for centuries. Scientists will be baffled. They will try to explain it with climate theories, but they will not be able to explain the speed of it. It will confuse the wise and frighten the proud. It is nature groaning for its creator. The marine life will flee, and the ships will steer clear, for the water will become heavy and strange. I saw huge container ships turning around, their captains fearful of the churning water. I saw dead fish floating to the surface, not by the millions, but enough to cause alarm. The smell coming off the water in the vision was sulfurous and ancient. This is to show that the earth is not a machine that runs on its own, Jesus said. It is a creation that responds to the spiritual condition of the world. The earth is reacting to the sin and the darkness that has covered it. Then, the atmosphere changed. It became heavy, oppressive, like the air before a thunderstorm. We were suddenly standing inside a grand hall. It looked like a government building, perhaps the United Nations or a major Capitol building. There were flags of many nations. The date, January 22nd, 2026, appeared. I saw a man standing at a podium. He was a leader I recognized, someone admired by millions, a man considered a peacemaker and a genius of economy. He was speaking, and the world was listening. But then a light shone on him, not a spotlight, but a spiritual light. Suddenly, I saw him as he really was. I saw shadows detach themselves from him. I saw hidden records, secret recordings, and vile deeds projected onto the walls behind him for the whole world to see. It was like his soul was being turned inside out. The fall of the idols, Jesus declared. His voice was like thunder now. What is whispered in the inner rooms will be shouted from the rooftops. A leader you trust will be revealed as a wolf, and it will not just be him. Watch. I looked around the room. I saw other politicians, business moguls, even religious leaders. As the light hit them, their secrets were exposed. I saw documents manifesting on screens that no human hand had touched. I saw emails that had been deleted appearing on news broadcasts. I am pulling back the curtain, Jesus said. There is no darkness dark enough to hide from me. The world will be shocked. They will feel betrayed. They will realize that the people they gave their power to were serving themselves. This exposure is necessary. It is to break the trust that man puts in man so that they might put their trust in God. I witnessed the chaos in the room. Security guards were trying to cover the screens, trying to cut the feeds, but they couldn't. The truth was leaking out like water from a broken dam. I saw the faces of the people watching at home. Shock, anger, disbelief. Do not put your faith in princes, Jesus whispered to me, for they are but dust. The vision changed again. This time we were standing in an open field. It was night, but it wasn't dark. I looked up at the sky. The date, January 29th, 2026, was written in the stars. The sky wasn't black. It wasn't blue. It was a deep, bruising purple. It looked like a bruise on the skin of the universe. This color pulsed and shimmered, stretching across the entire horizon. The purple sky, Jesus whispered. This will be visible across the entire northern hemisphere for 3 hours. Science will call it an atmospheric anomaly, a reaction of particles. But my children will know what it is. It is the hem of my robe brushing the atmosphere. It is a sign of royalty, but also a sign of mourning. I stood there in the field, staring up at the violet expanse. It was breathtaking and terrifying. The birds had stopped singing. The crickets were silent. The whole earth seemed to be holding its breath. The color felt alive. It felt like it was watching us. During these 3 hours, Jesus said, many will feel a sudden urge to repent. The color itself will carry a frequency that speaks to the soul. Those who are hardened will hide in their basements, afraid of the sky. They will close their blinds and curse the light. but those who are open will fall to their knees in the streets. It is a call to come home. I felt the urge myself, even in the vision. I wanted to weep. The color was so majestic, so holy, that it made me feel my own smallness. I saw people in the vision stepping out of their cars on the highway to look up. I saw children pointing. I saw old men taking off their hats. Then Jesus took me to another place. This was different. It wasn't a specific date, but a season, the end of January flowing into February. We were in a small, dimly lit room. I recognized the writing on the walls. It was Farsi. We were in Iran. Then the scene shifted to a basement in China, then to a hidden gathering in North Korea. I saw people weeping. They weren't weeping from grief. They were weeping from a joy so intense it looked like pain. The harvest is ripe, Jesus said, and for the first time he smiled. It was a smile that lit up the entire universe. While the West sleeps in its comfort and argues over politics, the East will awaken to my fire. I saw visions of Jesus appearing to people in their dreams. I saw a woman in Tehran waking up, clutching her chest, knowing that the man in white she saw in her sleep was the true God. I saw a prison guard in North Korea falling to his knees, dropping his weapon, overcome by a presence he couldn't explain. I am visiting them directly, he told me. Where the Bible is banned, I am not banned. Where the church is illegal, my spirit is not illegal. In late January, there will be a wave of dream visions in these lands that no government can stop. Thousands will come to me in a single night. He waved his hand again, and I saw the church in the West, in America, in Europe. It looked like a field of wheat, but it was choked with weeds. The sifting, he said. This month of January is a threshing floor. I am shaking the church. I'm exposing the pastors who preach for money and the leaders who love their own fame. Many big ministries will crumble. You will hear of scandals that seem impossible. Do not let your heart be troubled by this. The rot must be cut out for the body to heal. I saw grand cathedrals emptying out, their foundations cracking. I saw famous preachers stepping down in disgrace. But I also saw small living rooms filling up. I saw people gathering in kitchens, in garages, reading the Bible with a hunger they hadn't felt in years. I am moving the fire from the stage to the table, he explained. The era of the celebrity Christian is ending. The era of the faithful witness is beginning. Then he showed me the natural world again. I saw animals behaving strangely. I saw whales beaching themselves, not in confusion, but as if they were trying to escape the water. I saw birds migrating in the wrong direction. I saw wolves coming into cities. Creation knows, Jesus said softly. The animals can feel the vibration of my approach. They are more sensitive than humans. When you see the animals behaving strangely in January, know that they are reacting to the spiritual pressure increasing on the earth. He paused, and his face grew very serious. He stepped closer to me. The space around us seemed to contract, making everything intimate and urgent. Shinji, you have lived your life relying on what you can see. You are an engineer. You trust in the strength of the beam and the solidity of the foundation. But I tell you, the only foundation that will hold is me. He showed me my own life. I saw scenes from my childhood in Tokyo. I saw myself as a boy looking at a temple, feeling nothing. I saw myself in university in America, arguing with a roommate about evolution, mocking the idea of a creator. I saw myself refusing to go to church with a girlfriend, telling her it was a waste of time. I saw the pride I carried like a badge of honor, my intellect, my career, my skepticism. I felt a wave of shame wash over me. I was so blind, I whispered. I was so arrogant. You were, he agreed gently, but you were seeking. You sought truth in numbers, in physics, in structure. You were looking for me. You just didn't know my name. I am the logic behind the universe. I am the structure that holds reality together. He placed a hand on my shoulder. The heat from his hand was intense, like a branding iron, but it didn't burn my skin. It burned my soul. I am sending you back with a burden. It will not be easy. Your family will think you have lost your mind. Your colleagues will think you have brain damage, but you must speak. Why me? I asked, tears streaming down my face. Why not a priest? Why not someone who has believed their whole life? Because, he said, you represent the skeptics. You represent the ones who need proof, and I am giving you proof. He pointed back to the vision of Japan. The earthquake is the key. It will happen on Monday, December 8th. It will trigger a tsunami warning. It will be magnitude 7.6. When this happens and you see the news from your hospital bed, you will know that everything else I have shown you is true. It is the seal on the message. He looked deep into my eyes. Time is short, Shinji. The window is closing. Tell them to prepare. Tell them to store food. Yes, but more importantly, to store oil in their lamps. Tell them to forgive their enemies, for the time of holding grudges is over. Tell them to put their houses in order. I will, I promised. I will tell them. Remember the sequence, he instructed. First the earth shakes, Japan, then the silence, digital blackout, then the water turns, the boiling sea, then the leaders fall, the exposure, then the sky speaks, the purple sky, and through it all the harvest comes. I remember, I said. Go, he said, and do not fear. I am with you, even to the end of the age. The light intensified until it was blinding. I felt a sensation of rushing wind, of falling at incredible speed, then pain, excruciating, blinding pain. I gasped for air. I was back in my body. I heard the beep of machines. I felt the tube in my throat. I tried to sit up, but agony shot through my chest. He's awake, doctor, I heard a voice yell. I spent the next 3 days in a blur of surgeries and painkillers. I had fractured ribs, a shattered leg, and severe internal bruising. The doctors told me I was lucky to be alive. They told me I had been clinically dead for several minutes at the crash site before the paramedics revived me. As soon as I could speak, I started telling them. I grabbed the arm of the night shift nurse. Japan, I rasped. Watch Japan. Monday. She looked at me with sympathy. Rest, Mr. Hayashi. You've had a severe concussion. No, I insisted. Monday. The earthquake. You have to watch. I told my doctor. He checked my pupil dilation and increased my sedation. I tried to call my parents in Tokyo, but I was too weak to hold the phone. And when I finally got through to my mother, she told me to stop talking nonsense, that the trauma had confused me. There is no earthquake, Shinji, she said. It is a beautiful day here. It's coming, I told her, weeping. Please tell Akiko to get away from the coast. They didn't listen. No one listened. But this morning, Monday, December 8th, the alarms started ringing. I woke up to the sound of the television in the corner of my room, a breaking news alert. I fumbled for the remote and turned up the volume, and there it was, the map of Japan, the red X over the epicenter. The scrolling banner, magnitude 7.6 earthquake, strikes off northeast coast. I froze. The air left my lungs. It was exactly as I had seen it. The curve of the coast, the location of the epicenter, the intensity. Then the announcer said, tsunami warnings issued for Iwata Aomori. Aomori, my sister. I have been trying to call her for hours. The lines are dead. The panic I feel is overwhelming, but beneath the panic is a cold, hard realization. He was real. The visions were real. If the first event happened exactly as he showed me, then the rest is coming. There is no probability that I guessed a 7.6 earthquake on the exact day. That is impossible. Which means January 5th is coming. Which means the digital silence is coming. I am looking at my phone right now, typing this out with trembling fingers. I look at this device that connects me to the world, and I know that in less than a month, it will be a brick. I look at the leaders on the news giving statements about the earthquake, and I know that soon their secrets will be plastered on the walls. I am not a preacher. I am an engineer. I deal in load-bearing walls and stress points. And I'm telling you, the structural integrity of our world is about to be tested. This is not a joke. This is not a hallucination. Jesus Christ is the architect of reality, and he is coming to inspect the building. If you are reading this, please do not look for a logical explanation. There is no time left for skepticism. I was the biggest skeptic you could meet. I laughed at people who talked like this. I thought they were delusional. But I have stood in the void. I have seen the light. I have seen the map of the future unroll before me like a design plan. You need to prepare. Physically. Have cash on hand for when the digital systems fail on January 5th. Have water and food for when the supply chains are confused by the silence. Don't panic. Just be ready. Spiritually, this is the most important part. You need to get right with God. I don't mean you need to become religious. I mean you need to talk to him. You need to repent. That word used to scare me, but now I know it just means turn around. Turn around from the distraction, from the sin, from the emptiness, and face him. The mark on my arm, I didn't mention it before. When I woke up, right where the IV was, there was a sensation of heat. It wasn't the needle. It feels like a fingerprint, a small spot that feels warmer than the rest of my body. It is a constant reminder of his hand on my shoulder. I am still trying to reach Akiko. Every time the call fails, I pray. I pray that she felt the shaking and ran. I pray that the mercy of God covered her. Please, if you see this, pray for Japan. Pray for my sister. But also, look at the calendar. Count the days. January is coming. The earthquake was the knock on the door. What comes next is the entering. Do not be asleep. Do not be like I was, distracted, cynical, and unprepared. The man with the eyes of fire is waiting. The date for the next event is January 5th, 2026. The silence is coming. Prepare.